Just when Florida State couldn't lose any running back depth, they lose their best. All right, this is what we got to talk about on Florida State Seminoles Live tonight with Logan Robinson from Nole Game Day and, of course, Jason Parker from NBC6. How you boys doing tonight?
Doing good. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. And I'm pretty much right on time.
Well, I do want to apologize to both you and Logan because a couple of weeks ago I said, man, we don't have anything going on. What are we going to possibly talk about? And then the gods of FSU football just came down and said, here you go. I've got a full week. We're going to go into overtime. We may go into double overtime, triple overtime this week. Logan's going to miss his 9 o'clock taping. This is what's going to happen this week.
It couldn't have been like the backup left guard. It had to be this guy.
I would need him, sadly.
In the words of Jameis Winston, if you're going to do it big then. And we did it big by losing.
Number one running back in the depth chart, minus Cam Akers, of course, off to the NFL. The guy that everyone's been anticipating taking over the number one role because, as I remember, he came into the 2017 class right there with Cam Akers as two of the very best in the country, and this was supposed to be his time.
You could argue, some would say that he was the better recruit than Cam Akers. Cam Akers, also remember, was a quarterback in high school. KHALAN LABORN was a solid running back. He's from the state of Virginia. I believe he was Mr. Football in Virginia, correct, Logan?
I think so.
Mr. Football in Virginia.
Yeah.
We've talked about other guys that they've lost, other running backs that they've lost. There's no other way to put it. This one is not shocking. Obviously, our friend James Coleman, Big Game James, mentioned a little bit of it on Twitter over the course of the day. It's not shocking. KHALAN LABORN has had problems before. He obviously was suspended for the Florida game. He missed the Sun Bowl against Arizona State. He's had injuries. So this isn't shocking that he's gone. It is the worst timing, assuming we do have a 2020 season. This is literally the worst. I've talked about how he was going to be the most important player on offense because you need that running back. This one does hurt. This one hurts because he was the bona fide player as far as I've been in the locker room. I've seen what goes on. I've been a part of this team for 3 seasons. And that's where the problem's going to be. Now we got to see who is going to step into that spot. Logan, what do you see? Who do you see stepping in at the running back position now?
Right now, obviously a big miss. Before I get started, though, hit the like button real quick. Sorry. But I'm just doing it. We've got to start off early like this. 7:04. Hit the like button so we'll have more Noles in here. We already got close to 50 people.
This is your first quarter, then you'll do it again after halftime? Got it. Okay.
Yep. But obviously, this is a 5-star guy that came into Florida State. He was the number one all-purpose back in his class. Jason talked about him. He's a very talented guy. Went through injuries, had troubles, with pretty much all of the staff. We really didn't get to see what kind of relationship he really had with Mike Norvell and the new staff as a whole, but there was things with his mom and Jimbo Fisher back in the day when he first started. Mom really didn't want him going to Florida State. She told me that straight up face to face, and I've had multiple conversations with her. And so that just always was a problem right off the beginning and wanting more playing time. And then also going into the Taggart situation, Cam Akers took a lot of that load too from him and getting playing time there. So it caused a little bit of discomfort maybe for him. And I think a lot of things, it's a violation of a team policy, but I think a lot of people, kind of understand the might of what happened. I know if you, kind of cover Florida State or you've been in the know of things, there's things that, it kind of is like a little bit of a Greg Reed situation. And I think, though, KHALAN had a lot of chances, though, to fix it. But it just wasn't the case, and things kept on going down a bad route. But now you look at who's going to be behind him. Who's that running back depth looking like? I think Deshaun Corbin was already going to be a 1-2 punch with LaBourne no matter what, but now he's a solidified starter heading into Atlanta against West Virginia. And then you look at LaDamian Webb, who I'm really excited to see. He has really good experience. He has great athleticism. He's good with his balance, and he has good feet, and he's a really good, nice backspin. He's just a really talented guy who has experience that should be your number 2 dude. So I don't think it's all end all be all. I think Florida State, luckily Mike Norvell did a good job of growing depth back there. But of course, it's never a good look that, you see a 5-star guy not be able to work out here in Tallahassee. So it's tough.
But you know what? Running back never got kicked off the football team in Florida State during his 4 years there. The man who gets our first shout out of the night, the birthday boy himself. We spent this last birthday weekend partying it up in the mean streets of Jacksonville. Ladies and gentlemen, number 36, our running back, James Coleman. James, can you hear us? Wow, I went through that whole spiel and he doesn't even hear us.
All the times
My God.
that I don't want Jason cutting me off and introducing people because that's my role, I have to admit, Jason, I would not have been able to give that send-off because I didn't know about 80% of that.
Well, he never got kicked off the team at Florida State. He was number 36, and he had a birthday.
Okay, 2 out of 3. I knew.
Okay.
Just not aware of the birthday.
James, blink if you can hear us.
Can you hear us, James? Apparently not.
I can only
I don't think so.
Oh, we can hear you now.
Hear Logan.
Oh, no. You can hear me, James? All right, so, James, I guess they can't hear you.
Take it away, Logan.
But you can
Set
hear
him up.
me.
Yep, I can hear James.
We hear
That
you.
is so weird. Like
I know that used to happen for me, James, back in the day. I would be able to hear like a few guys that happened, but I don't know what's going on. Maybe change your browser. Maybe change your browser.
We have here at Mark Rogers TV. Every Tuesday at 7 o'clock, you two can experience our technological
let me get out of this.
advantages here with Mark Rogers
use
TV.
Google.
They're trying to hold me back.
Let me get out.
I will
All right, he's
continue
going to go to a
undaunted,
different
though.
browser.
We'll have James.
Continue the running back talk. Premier Youth Theater. Man, they actually remember the promise from last week. A number of people here in the live chat actually remembered my parting words that I was going to promise a 7 o'clock hard start. Bam. We came within a minute or two.
Who was the one person here?
What? No, I was here before Jason.
Who texted Mark Rogers, get up with an exclamation point?
I was on the phone and starting to lose track of time.
I do want to do our typical. Let me go after the viewers real quick. Phil B put up there basically it's no big loss. KHALAN LABORN. I understand that he did not start because there was this guy named Cam Akers who was there. You cannot argue that losing KHALAN LABORN is not going to hurt Florida State. I'm not saying that he was going to be the next Cam Akers, the next Dalvin Cook, the next Devontae Freeman, but losing him just over a month before the scheduled first game, that is a problem. That hurts Florida State. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Let's not be stupid Miami fans. Let's not be stupid Florida fans. We can admit when something bad happens, we have to own it. This is bad for Florida State. Can Florida State bounce back from it? Absolutely. But own it. Own it. There's still about a few months till signing day, Christian.
It's a tough situation. A lot of people are asking what is a team violation and all that kind of stuff. What's against the policy? But he had multiple chances throughout his career at FSU, and I think it was just reoccurring things. Whenever Greg Reed was here, I think everybody knew what was going on, what happened, but at that point in time, really, there wasn't much of a lot of slaps on the wrist. Obviously, Jimbo Fisher really loved Greg Reed and tried to probably, keep it quiet as much as he could. But nowadays, you got to do a couple little bit of workouts and whatnot, and then they'll let you go and figure it out. But there's too much talent that I think back there to be too concerned about it. I think there's some young cats. There's guys with experience like Webb, and I think a lot of people are asking about Toa Philly in the chat too. I think he's a raw product. He's still got to build his body a little bit more where he would get thrown into the production there under Mike Norvell and Dillingham. But there's also Ja'Kai Douglas. Corey Wren could be used in some packages. I'd really like to see him get out there. I think he's going to be utilized in special teams a lot. But of course, right now you're looking at Corbin without a doubt. And he's got a cigar. He comes back from being disconnected and he's going to throw out a cigar at us right now.
More importantly, did Logan Robinson just take a shot at Jimbo Fisher and say that Jimbo Fisher would keep a player around while he was doing illegal activities? Did you just say that, Logan?
That wasn't a shot. That was never a shot.
I've never been prouder of you in the 60-plus broadcasts we've done here than that moment right there.
I went after Jimbo last week, too. I'm surprised you weren't too excited.
We're 10 minutes in. Can James hear us?
I can hear you.
Oh, he's got
James
it.
can hear us. So let's try this again.
Jason, if you could somehow reproduce that welcome,
Okay,
then
all right, ready? All right. Speaking of running backs who never got kicked off the football team at Florida State, he was number 36 in your programs. He's number 1 in my heart, Logan's heart, Mark Rogers' heart. Ladies and gentlemen, the birthday boy himself from the mean streets of Jacksonville, James Coleman. James Coleman, happy birthday, buddy. Happy birthday this weekend.
Everything I smoke is legal.
You're not getting kicked off? You're not getting kicked off the team, are you?
No, I would dead on the team. It's all about understanding time and place. But
congratulations on surviving another year on this earth. How was your birthday on Sunday?
It was good. I went to Roof Chris. They showed hell of a love. Shout out to my boy Jalen Ramsey. It was cool. Just laid around. Took a week off. Kinda. I went to St. Aug. We got a timeshare, and I guess we got a couple of them, but we used some points, and we were in St. Augustine for a week. So, yeah. So that was. And
more importantly, your thoughts on KHALAN LABORN. What does this mean for the running back room?
I mean, the running back room was decided when Coleman got his clearance. So that's basically how that goes. And you have Webb, who's a junior college guy, if I'm correct. And then you've got Toafali. You've got the room is actually solid. The problem in where his issue is, you got to understand how to get in trouble, when to get in trouble, and like when you're no longer the number one guy, and you got to make sure that you are squeaky clean. If I can promise you this, if KHALAN LABORN rushed for 700 plus yards last year, he would not be kicked off this team. They would figure out a way to make sure that he is still there. But I think with running backs, and I think we call it a mega mind in the fifth quarter, because I mean I've got a big head, so I can talk about people with big heads, especially big foreheads. But Ja'Kai Douglas, he's got some skill sets. So, and if you look at what Mark, I just called you basically our football coach. What Coach Norvell, what Mike Norvell has been able to do in the running game, using multiple different type of looks, using wide receivers, using running backs, using fullbacks. I think this is okay. And the fact that KHALAN LABORN didn't really have much experience. Question mark. Heck, who's the preseason All ACC guy? It ain't KHALAN LABORN. It's the guy who hasn't had one carry at Florida State, and that's Coleman. So again, that tells you everything that you needed to know about the season, and this stuff happens. This guy was not. Yes, it was disciplinary reasons. Our intel tells.
Doesn't mean the Wi-Fi needs to get fixed at 1010 XL in Jacksonville.
James is mighty important because we hold out for James regardless. In the car, buying Burger King, whatever it is.
What he was going to say was everything Jason said is right. Everything Logan said is wrong. That's what he was going to say. He's going to finish up with that, but we'll continue.
I think me and James have some close to a source that we use. So he might say exactly what I've been having. We've been on the kind of the same ground with a lot of these things, but it's probably a little bit of. He's back.
I think you and James use the same over there.
It's pouring down, raining. All this stuff that happened in Tallahassee just all of a sudden just started happening in Jacksonville. So forgive me, but yeah. The bottom line is KHALAN LABORN. I mean, it was dope. He had a great quotable in the spring game. I still use it as a life quote. Anytime in life I see a wide ass open hole, I hit that bitch, and that's about it though. So I appreciate him for that quotable, but other than that, I hope the best for him. Go see Walt Bell and at UMass, or go hang out with William Jerome Taggart in Boca.
He'll be an Old Dominion Monarch. That's where he's going to end up going. Come on now. He'll be in the Conference USA.
I think maybe Nevada or California might be a better spot, just from what I'm thinking. Maybe a better spot, and
Okay, that gives me some insight into what might be going on here.
I don't think it's as bad. Obviously, I mean, I heard terrible things about the whole Malik Henry thing, but it's kind of the same way as there was things off the field, relationship wise things with players. I think KHALAN had better relationships with guys that weren't on the football team. I have friends that hang out with KHALAN a lot, and that's who he was really around the most, more than his teammates. And I think that's been the way it's lasted throughout his career at FSU. I could be wrong, but it seemed like he really, at least shown everywhere that, maybe they lost a lot of connections there with his team and whatnot. And I hope the best that he gets another chance somewhere. I think his mental state is just a little off balance right now. But it's not a brutal hit for Florida State going into next season, because there is talent back there. And I'm really excited about LaDamian Webb. I suggest people go look at some film on him, look at his stats. I think he's a cat that is going to develop and be really like a playmaker that Kenley Dillingham likes. I think he's going to be a cat there that they'll be able to utilize. But obviously Corbin is by far was already expected to be a starter.
I love how you guys are all assuming we're going to have a season. You guys are so cute, assuming we're going to actually have a season. So congratulations.
We'll find out tomorrow.
That's the second shout out goes to the Miami Marlins for ruining the baseball season. Sorry, they're ruining the baseball season. They're causing storms to come here. They're ruining my weekend because I was credentialed for their whole series against the Nationals. It's going to end up ruining football. So thanks a lot, Marlins. Thanks a lot, Jeter. Sure.
Jeter's your guy too.
He is my guy. I love him. I had the signed autograph on a menu in a pink pen because it was the only thing the waitress had at the restaurant that I saw the one time right over there. So, but still.
I mean, here's the thing. Just don't break protocol. It's very simple. Like, just stay your ass home. Stay your ass home and you're good.
If you have a mask, wear a mask. It's not that hard, people. Wear a mask.
That was if you have one.
I know you have a mask, Mark. You have a Buckeyes mask. Don't lie. James has one.
I was given 3 masks by my company, and I had already purchased plenty of masks. We've got masks to go around here. We're good to go.
Exactly.
Got 100 on the line here. We're taking your comments, your questions, your debate topics for James Coleman, and that's big game, James, to you. We got Jason Parker from NBC6, and of course Logan Robinson from Knoll at Game Day.
Can we get to the next topic? Because I want to hear Logan say this name so badly.
So we got a 3-star offensive lineman that committed this week, right?
Yes, Logan. Tell us about this kid from Niceville.
He's a boy, and he plays offensive line, and that's pretty much all that you need to say. And the FSU fans are going to be excited. And I mean, it really comes after FSU lost an offensive line commit with Slaughter. Slaughter was already a Florida fan. I believe his dad is taking a job in Gainesville.
We're going to talk about that in a moment.
I like the way they play.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But tell us about Chemo.
Chemo, McAnole, what do you want me to say? I mean, you just want me to embarrass. I'm terrible with names right off the bat anyways. I already screwed up Kobe's earlier.
He's Samoan. Just call him the Samoan.
I'll call him Hawaiian.
No, we're going to call
Chemo McAnole.
That's not like discriminatory or anything.
Chemo McAnole. Yes, I may have spent an hour trying to practice that. Chemo McAnole.
I don't know how to say Hamson. I don't know how to say that.
Definitely Middle East.
I refuse to learn. Yeah, I refuse to learn. He's Black ISIS to me until I like that. I like that way better.
James, we've literally been doing this for 60 plus weeks now. I just realized Logan's last name is Robinson. I've been calling him Robinson for the last 60 plus weeks. His last name is Robinson. So we're not going to talk about that.
That's pathetic. Anyways, but yeah, going back to the commit, this is pretty funny though. Coach Atkins is on his stuff. He immediately went after, and he was already having good talks with Chemo, if that's what we're calling him. And he really likes the Knowles. So what happened was Slaughter's gone. Atkins said that he was making room for him. I mean, Slaughter was going by kind of, it was already 50-50, but they make room. Bye-bye, and then in comes maybe even better product. Obviously, you got a lot more developing to do. He's raw, but it's good that Coach Atkins is on his stuff, and he can he's just a pretty hard worker from what I've seen. But he's a talent that I think is going to have to take some developing, and that's with a lot of these guys until they start winning games and get these 4 stars and 5 stars to come. But He's a big boy, and once you land a Hawaiian offensive lineman, I think you've made it. So maybe that's all that is needed for Florida State and success moving forward.
Now you made an interesting point because he takes the spot of Jay Slaughter, who was another 3-star offensive lineman from Ocala Trinity Catholic, who, when he committed to Florida, after committing to Florida State, put this on Twitter, quote, "I wish nothing but the best for FSU football, but I've always known I was a Gator." So the thing that got me with that is the fact that he said, "I've always known I was a Gator," and a lot of Gator boards and some FSU boards killed him because it essentially was, if you always knew you were a Gator, why did you commit to Florida State? Why didn't you commit to Florida when they offered you the scholarship at the end of April, beginning of May? Why did you wait till July? So I'm going to ask the question to James Coleman, since you're the only one out of the 4 of us who played collegiate football. Logan grew up a Florida State fan. I grew up a Florida State fan. Mark is becoming a Florida State fan. James, who was your team growing up? Were you? I mean, you're from Tallahassee. You went to high school in Tallahassee. Were you a Florida State fan growing up? And if not, were you a fan of a different team that may have been FSU's rival? And how did you go about deciding to become a Nole? Did your allegiance as a fan growing up help your decision?
I was actually I was a fan of 2 schools. My family is transplants. So everybody that and where I spent some time in is in the Northeast. So in Trenton, New Jersey. So really, I'm a big, so football, if I had to pick, I'm an Eagles fan. The 76ers are one of my favorite basketball teams if I had to pick. But we watched NFL, and when we saw games, the games that we saw on ABC or things like that were FSU Miami, FSU Florida. And the way that I grew up, it's kind of like this. If you've seen the Fab Five, the special on the Fab 5, where Jalen was talking about how don't crush me on this, but black kids with both parents went to Duke. That was the kid that Duke recruited. Kids from the hood is the kids that Michigan recruited. Well, when I look at Florida State, Miami, and Florida, all respective, when I moved, especially when I moved to Tallahassee, I saw trash talking, hitting to the echo of the whistle, backflips, very braggadocious lifestyle, gold teeth, hair. I saw that at 2 universities. I saw myself at 2 universities, and that was Florida State and Miami. When I looked at Florida, I saw a coach at that time was complaining about being hit late, complaining, slamming his, playing a good brand of football, but a lot of complaining. So there was only 2 schools that I would have went to in the state of Florida, and I actually thought I was going to the University of Miami. During that time, they could make a lot of adjustments to grades, but they can only do it for so many players. And I don't know if you guys realize that a good majority of Miami players probably couldn't get into the University of Miami without football. It's a really good academic school. And so I couldn't do that. So there were some questions of if I was even going to graduate because I was struggling in physics. You had to have 4 sciences in the state of Florida when I was coming in. And then my core GPA was like 2.3. Now, my ACT, I scored a 30 on the ACT as a sophomore. I just didn't do homework, and I didn't go to class. So that's really where my hang-up was. And
so you
luckily,
tested.
You give me a test, I'm going to test off the chart. My retention of knowledge is off the charts. I just don't like school. I think school is for suckers. The way that school is taught.
Kids stay in school.
Education is important. The way that they teach school to me is it's not made for guys like me. Yeah. But luckily, look at Florida State and Miss Mary Coburn, our AD's wife, had this program called the CARE program. And I was able to get into Florida State through the CARE program and thus was able to start my career at FSU. But Miami would have been, the answer to the question, it would have been Miami. And a lot of guys were either Miami, FSU, or some guys were Florida, FSU, guys when it all came down to it. So, but I was going on. But I'm not a Miami fan. I have respect for Miami. But these kids are different, man. You got a running back that was at Miami that transfers to Florida. You got a left tackle or offensive tackle that didn't even play it down, but went to Florida that transfers to Miami, and now all of a sudden you gang. It doesn't work like that. Like you're either like, so I knew Slaughter. I figured Slaughter was going to be gone. Kudos to Atkins, but I'm gonna give a shout out to some fans. Right, there's a group chat that I'm in, and there's a guy who everybody there's a guy. I don't want to give his government name out because then I could mess him up. But it's at Reasonable Doubt on Twitter.
Oh God!
Actually, no, everybody knows him as Posting Grimes. Posting Grimes, who everybody knows as trolls for FSU, and Big No, I forgot his number. Anyways, those guys are those are good trolls that they get off on that. They're really good guys. But they brought up this chemo kid about 3 months ago. And they were talking about how they would love to see him be recruited. And a lot of guys they brought up have been a lot of guys that Atkins and some other people have circled back around. So it was funny that I'm hearing about all this stuff about this chemo kid, and I'm just like, whatever. And then all of a sudden he comes on board and he's doing his thing. So I think that's kind of dope. But the young man does have a lot of upside, and I believe he projects well in the long run.
I just want him to do well so that for the next 4 years that we're doing this, Logan has to say his name for the next 4 years. Melo Kalikimaka.
I'm all for the Haka, though. I want the Haka back. Make the Haka important.
Is he one of – I think he might be one of our first Samoan players if he is truly of Samoan descent.
I don't know.
I wouldn't be able to do that one.
Logan next week will tell you the history of Samoan football players at Florida State. That's his assignment for next week here with MarkRogersTV, the voice of culture.
I already don't do a good enough of preparing for even like top 3 list of players and whatnot. So I don't know if that's a good thing. And I'm not doing school and tool. I'm actually admitted into a class and I have to do it, Jason. So that sounds like too much homework to do.
You know what Logan did do good prep on is our offensive and defensive breakdowns that are coming up later this week. He did a stellar job. It was a great time talking up Florida State offense and defense. Man, we delivered like a full hour. It's tremendous. The only regret I have, Logan, is that, and of course we're going to hit special teams. We're going to look at the coaching staff as well. The only regret is I had to go back and edit the offense and take out the KHALAN LABORN. That was the stellar analysis from you.
More importantly, when I did it in 2019, you didn't have to edit anything because it was perfection. But it's fine, Logan. You did the best you could do. Hey, you did your job.
I tried to keep up with you and James. I try to. I'm the young one here. I'm still learning. So come on.
I thought it was the best analysis of Florida State football outside of James Coleman that I've heard and had on my show.
I'm sorry, you said Jason.
That's a low bar, James Coleman.
At least you're the bar, James. You are the bar.
It's already 7:30, and we have 120 something people watching. And this is nuts. We're almost at 130, but we only have close to 50 likes. Can we get this like button rolling and share this with your friends? Make sure that subscribe button.
Hold on a second, Logan. Hold on a second.
Interrupted me once again. Here he goes.
Hold on a second. Mark, I apologize. I have to do this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Logan Robinson with why you should hit the like button. There has to be an intro. Go ahead.
Now that makes it more cringe-worthy, and that makes me feel awkward now.
Good.
But 53 likes. We're rolling right now. But if we hit the like button, more Knowles will see this. Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock are the best times ever. It's me, James, Jason, and Mark. Every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Even when football season starts, we're in here to recap games, preview games. I highly suggest you subscribe so then you'll be notified whenever the new episodes are out. Make sure you hit that bell too, like James says, so then you'll get a notification on your phones too.
And this is my easiest hour of work the entire week by far. It's not even close. I usually have to actually talk, but I come on here, I start the show, and then anytime there's a gap, Jason is certainly willing and able to jump in and just kind of take over.
It's because we bring excellence, we bring insights. You have James Coleman, who has the experience on the field from 4 years in the field. You have Logan, who has insight in Tallahassee. You have me with my knowledge as the, quote, Fresh Prince of Popeyes. I'll take that title all day, every day. We actually exude facts, opinions, and we're good. We're not like that Cam Underwood crap on Saturdays with UM,
I got a question real quick. Question about running backs, because I saw a comment that FSU is not like a factory of running backs, and respectable. Like Georgia, I would Georgia does a really good job of producing running backs. If I remember correctly, if we date back to Chris Thompson, I believe, hasn't every starter at FSU gone to the league and played pretty significant? Because it was Chris Thompson, Devonta Freeman,
James Wilder,
this guy named Dalvin Cook, who's in a contract dispute, and then didn't Cam just get drafted and is actually replaced the guy from Georgia, I believe, if I'm correct.
James,
wouldn't that constitute as a pretty damn good track record?
People don't want to give us the credit. No, people don't want to give us the credit. Like those people who say Ohio State is DBU when it's really Florida State that's DBU. People don't want to give us credit for our accomplishments. That's what it comes down to. Haters are going to hate. In the words of Logan's favorite artist, Taylor Swift, haters going to hate.
We're quoting Taylor Swift on my show. Is that what we're doing?
Listen. It's time we come out with the honesty. Logan listens to Taylor Swift. He downloaded her new album. He's a diehard Braves fan. The Giants are just a facade.
Logan is not the one quoting Taylor Swift, though.
Listen, I'm eclectic. All right, I got my
Mark. We've got to get the comments like under here down below, like that are right by James. Like we got to get those away because that's making me feel a little awkward. Wait, that might be a package for some old game day merch. Hold up. I got to go to the door. Give me a second.
I'm an eclectic man. I've got my Black Lives Matter mask. I quote Taylor Swift. I exude the whole party here. Okay, and we've lost Logan. Logan's going somewhere.
So Adonbe is pretty much putting every major college football decision at my feet, the latest being the KHALAN LABORN being dismissed off the football team. Adonbe believes I'm the source of all that. We come up here every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time talking Florida State football, and Logan's going to unveil some kind of package delivery at the door for us.
I don't have
Logan, my birthday is September 1st. You're a little early, but I'll take whatever.
You got any 2X or XL?
No, come on. I got XL for you. You don't need another 2XL.
Nah, I'm XL. It'll squeeze tight, but right now, Freddie Stevenson's got me on competition. Now that I realize he's bulked up to where I'm at now. Now I got to beat him to 230.
Now, if there's a game in Tallahassee this year, we all need to take a picture of the three of us because I'm getting sick and tired of Mark using a picture of my crotch on Twitter to advertise this. It's been a little bit weird. I'm not
the only one that comes up.
It's a little weird, not gonna lie. I also have that.
Okay, so what we're gonna do next week is we're gonna have pictures of everybody here except for you, Jason. That's the way you want it. That's the way.
No,
you got one picture on the internet, Jason. That's the only one that's available. That's it. That's all I could find.
Here, I'm gonna tweet you a picture right now that I want you to use next week. Okay, got
it. Is it gonna be your? It's not your Bumble or Tinder profile picture, is it?
Well, the funny part of the picture that he uses is also like the one I use on JDate and all the other ones. So that might be why I'm O for everything. But who knows? That could be wrong.
God, it's turning the wrong.
The Miami fans who are still talking smack because James Williams, 5-star safety. Yes, he's great. He's a great guy. We did a story on him last year. He wasn't leaving Miami. Anyone who knows the story about his family and the tragedy involving his mother and father from when he was a small child, he was never leaving Miami. You got a guy who was going to go there no matter what. So congratulations, Mazel Tov. You got a guy that you really worked hard to try to lose. You almost lost him to Alabama. So
but Miami's doing really good though. I can't. Let me tell you about a birthday text that I got from a former Todd Stroud. Great guy, like Coach Stroud. Coach Stroud says, "Happy birthday! You're doing well. Blah blah blah. Like you being a father. Just know, wherever I'm at, your son has a home." And I'm like, he can become a K now if he wants to, which won't happen. And then he says, "Oh yeah." I said, "Congrats, you're doing really good in recruiting." He said, "Oh, if you think it's good now, wait till August 6th." And I'm like, I don't want to hear that mess on my birthday. I don't want to hear it. Then all the crystal balls came in for a young guy. So,
James, we talked about this a little bit last week. The problem is the fact that they can't leave Miami. Right now, none of the recruits have left. They haven't toured a real school like Florida State. They've only toured that little small commuter school in Coral Gables. You know, that's where we're at right now. Once they actually get out of the Dade County line and actually see real schools, actually see what real college life is like, then they're going to realize, wow, what's this mistake of me being committed to this school? The
I
University
actually don't think that's it. I know what it is, and Cam doesn't have the balls to come on here and the truthfulness to come on here and say it. Is it any coincidence that recruiting has spiked ever since Nevin Shapiro's gotten out of jail? Nevin Shapiro's released, and all of a sudden, the bag and the money in Gables is flowing. That man found his money that he hid, and then recruits. He has no problem sharing it. So I can't hate. Get paid, young man. He dropped a big enough bag.
Topics, James, and those debates that are going to blow this channel up. That's one we could get going. We could do Jason's little DBU argument. We could bring on a Texas guy, a Florida guy, an LSU guy, an Ohio State guy I might be able to find somewhere. And we could have our DBU debate. And we could also have a little controversial discussion concerning Miami's recruiting successes.
I'm not saying James is wrong. James makes an excellent point, and he is 100% correct on that one. I would say that Cam, we've tried to get Cam Underwood on here. I've said I'll go debate him on Saturday. I think he should come with us here on a Tuesday night. We'll kick Logan out if we have to. It's fine.
Jam.
He can be next to it. We don't have enough room for 5 people. The option is kick Mark out or kick you out. I'm sorry.
I think the option is going to be to kick me out as long as I get this thing started and the views monetized. That's about all I care about. And we'll get this thing going and I'll let you guys go.
Yeah. Wait, what's your little list? Speaking of lists, Jason, throw out that list from Tallahassee Democrat that you wanted to argue with.
Let Mark introduce. It's his show, so let him do it.
Oh, you're coming after me? You should don't even start. Don't even start. This is
Go ahead, Mark.
We understand this week that the Tallahassee Democrat released its top 10 Florida State football players of the decade of the 2010s. Correct, Jason?
That is what they did.
Okay.
And so we'll go through the list real quick because there are some debates. And James has made a point about how he disagrees with a couple of them. So we can go through it for the next 20 minutes or however long we want to do it. So this is obviously from the 2010 season to the 2019 season. So number 10, Bjorn Warner. Number 9, Brian Stork. Number 8, Nick O'Leary. Number 7, LaMarcus Joyner. Number 6, Rashad Green. Number 5, DeMarcus Walker. Number 4, Roberto Aguayo. Number 3, Jalen Ramsey. Number 2, Dalvin Cook. And number 1, Jameis Winston. So I'm going to let James go first because I'm going to rip this list apart in a moment. So James will be a little bit more diplomatic. So James, what is your beef with that list?
Well, Derwin James isn't mentioned on there. I don't believe kickers are people. So kickers shouldn't be on this list unless you're Sebastian Janikowski. Roberto was good, but Roberto really reverted after he missed the kick going into halftime of Oregon. Warner, it just all depends on when was Brandon Jenkins. Was Brandon Jenkins 09 or was he 10?
I think he was 2010 was his last season. I think there's a lot of issues for me. How are you going to have Brian Stork on there who's good and not have Rodney Hudson?
That's what I'm saying. So that would be my argument right there. Rodney Hudson. DeMarcus is about right where you have him, but it's just some guys that I believe were it's really the top 5 spot. You said who was number 4?
4 was Roberto Aguayo. 3 was Jalen Ramsey.
Get Roberto out of there. Okay. Outside of that, 4 of those top 5 are fine. I don't like the Brian Stork. I don't like Bjorn Warner. Those are really the 3 that I would just say like aren't good. Like you just should. I mean, they're not bad. I'm just saying like top 10 is something that you look at and be like, yo, that's 10 Hall of Famers. And I mean, maybe eventually down the road, like when they're like 70, they'll get into the FSU Hall of Fame. But I don't believe they're top 10 during that time, especially when you think about how good the 2012 and the 2013 defense was. Literally, the 2 deep roster went to the NFL. When you think about how good the national championship offense was, like they had I think Florida State, maybe LSU, and maybe some of these other schools have done it since then. But at the time, I think Florida State was the first school or one of the few schools who had somebody from every position group drafted from their national championship team, and or multiple players. So I mean, I think you have so much more in that 13 to 15 range that should be considered for that list. I don't have any problems with Rashad. He was a great college player, just a terrible NFL player. But, like I said, there really is just those three players that I just really have a fundamental problem with.
My beef is two parts. Number one, and then you hit the nail on the head. Brian Stork was a great center, went on to the NFL, started with the Patriots, won a Super Bowl with them. But you cannot not have Rodney Hudson on the list and have Brian Stork. Rodney Hudson was a better offensive lineman than what Brian Stork was in Tallahassee. Bjorn Warner, I get, he was an All-American, first guy since I want to say Jamal Reynolds on that defensive line to be an All-American. So I understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it. I would like to see Rashad Green higher. I don't think he gets enough credit for all the things he did. I don't think he gets enough credit for that 2013 and that 2014 season as arguably the best wide receiver, I would argue, in the ACC during that time. But my beef is at the top of the list. If you're going to ask me who had the greatest season of the decade, it was Jameis Winston. That 2013 season was the greatest season probably for a college quarterback outside of what Joe Burrow did last year at LSU. So that's fine. Who had the best career of the decade was Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook was and it's disappointing that Dalvin Cook didn't win a national title and he only won ACC title in 2014. But Dalvin Cook was the best player of that decade for Florida State. Dalvin Cook was the man. Dalvin Cook did in 3 years what it took Warrick Dunn to do in 4 years, what it took Greg Jones to do in 4 years, what it took all those great running backs to do in their career. Dalvin Jones did it in a little bit of time, and that included missing nearly 2 full games during his sophomore season in 2015. But here's why I'm going to give Dalvin Cook all the credit in the world. In 2016, Florida State went 10-3, 9-3 in the regular season. Without Dalvin Cook, we don't beat Syracuse, we don't beat NC State, we don't beat Miami, and we more than likely don't beat USF. That's 4 wins in the regular season. And we don't win the Orange Bowl against Michigan without Dalvin Cook. In 2015, we don't beat Miami, we probably don't beat Wake Forest, and we don't beat USF. And in 2014, we don't beat Louisville, we don't beat Miami, and we don't beat Georgia Tech in the ACC Championship. That's 11 games right there. That's 11 wins Florida State had that they lose if Dalvin Cook is not a Seminole. That's why right there. And don't get me wrong, this is not an attack at Jameis. I think Jameis's number should be retired. I think he should be considered one of the best. Knowles, it obviously will not be retired for all the off-the-field stuff. But if you're going to say who was the best player for Florida State from 2010 to 2019, it was Dalvin Cook, without a shadow of a doubt. And I will take that to the grave.
That's actually that's a very fair argument. I don't really agree.
Yeah.
I think Jameis is one of the best nose, but I also think Dalvin Cook is one of the best nose. I personally think Dalvin Cook is the best running back that ever played at Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. I can so I can see your argument for one. Now, if that's your argument for number one, I could just say we could agree to disagree, but I can understand your viewpoint. If it were anybody else, I'd just be like, you know what, that's a Jameis hate. But I don't disagree with your points.
See, Logan, that's how you do a respectful disagreement with somebody.
Trust me, I'm very respectful. I think both of y'all are missing out on somebody, though, which I'm surprised y'all haven't talked about yet. There's just not enough argument here. JJ Constantino is someone that was really missed out on. This list really screwed him over. Didn't get enough love on this, and the production that he had was one of the most successful runs we've ever seen in Florida State history.
I can't think of his name, but if we want to argue the downfall of Jimbo Fisher's tenure at Florida State, it is a quarterback. It isn't JJ Constantino, whose best throw was over was it a sorority house or a frat house or whatever that he had made. But whoever the quarterback that went to Bama that transferred to won a national championship, if Coker stays at Florida State, Florida State's back in the playoff in 2015, and they possibly win a national championship. And Coker does something that I know he really wished would have happened: get drafted.
Now, first of all, I'd like to apologize to our viewers for Logan's absolutely asinine statement that they've been bringing the words JJ.
I thought you were going to bring up the greatest linebacker in FSU history.
Oh, Don Davis Jackson.
Davis Jackson, come on now. I've been showing him too much love lately. He can't get all this.
Give a straight answer with Cam Irving.
It should be down.
You get in the top 10?
I'll
He
take
came
Cam
to
Irvin over
mind for
Brian
me.
Storer.
He came to mind, and Derwin James. Those two came to mind, and I agree with James. Place kickers are important, but they're not football players. So
No.
get them off the list and make another list of your top 3 kickers or whatever you want to do.
Roberto Aguayo was a top 10 player for what he did because he did stuff as a kicker.
I don't think they're players.
Is he the number 4 person on the list? No. Would I put him maybe at 9 or 10? Yeah, I'll give you an argument down there in the bottom, like towards.
He didn't.
9 or
The
10.
thing was, like in 2013, he really didn't have to do much. I mean, he obviously he had the most points in the world, everything. He set the NCAA record or whatever it was, but he didn't really have to have last second kicks to be like everybody's sweating in the stands. After the second quarter, I was already watching on my phone other games because it was over. I mean, they're beating Maryland by 50 points heading into the third quarter.
Now, I will say he was no Ricky Aguayo. Pretty Ricky Aguayo was the man. I know he was your favorite, Logan, during his time.
Roberto went from being, doing what he did in 13, which, like Logan said, if he wasn't there and there was somebody else, would you have known? To 14 when he missed a very important kick, and then if we go from 14 through the rest of his career, he never made a kick that mattered. He's Xavier Bethia.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's harsh. That's harsh because of what he was there in 13, but I'm just saying, if you're a kicker, I'll say, Sebastian, if you're going to have that, you got to be Sebastian Janikowski, who is kicking, who is a weapon as soon as you stepped an inch across the 50, you knew you had points, and you knew he was going to make it. And he could tackle, and he was a badass. And the fact that he did all of this, possibly high, drunk, and bribing police officers. And then he went to be a first-round draft pick. Like, that's how even though I believe the Bucs wasted a pick in the second round on Aguayo, but you saw him not only help destroy Florida State by not making a kick that mattered, he also helped destroy an NFL franchise. So, I mean, again, good for him. That probably won't make me popular at the player reunion if I ever see him, but again, he's a kicker.
You do know we lost to Oregon by 39 points. I don't think he feels
that. Once he missed that, that's what made the ball got slippery, or I didn't. That made Dalvin Cook fumble the ball so many times. That again, if you want to bring that up, you can't say that and then say who your number 1 player was.
I think that was an 18-13 game in the third quarter.
Your number 1 player lost the game.
No, my number 1 player got us to the damn game by beating Georgia Tech in the ACC championship.
All I'm saying is that the only thing that was entrenched and embedded in my brain is Billy Sexton saying no running back is worth 2 fumbles. It's like but again, Dalvin Cook might be the only exception. He more than made up for it. But what I'm just saying is after that, Aguayo was never the same.
Mark, I think you understand our hatred of kickers or distrust of kickers. I don't think we hate kickers; we just distrust them. And you obviously, there's
a history there, from what I understand.
Right. So
there's a little right, there's a little left. There's with a capable kicker. Oh my goodness, what is it? 14 straight years in the top 4, whatever it is, would have included a lot more national championships.
Definitely would have. I mean, if we just didn't play, if we were a fearful program and didn't play Miami in Miami's heyday, we will probably have more. But the kickers, there's only one coach who can and this is why I believe he's the greatest, because he can out-coach bad kickers, and that's Nick Saban. Nick Saban is the only coach in the history of football who absolutely doesn't even need the position group to win games.
Yeah, he doesn't give a damn.
So, Logan, what do you think? You've heard the list. Who do you think from last decade? I mean, obviously, you're going to say, Mike Norvell is the greatest coach of the decade. But who do you think was the best player of the decade?
The best player of the decade?
Go ahead.
Well, can I say who they're missing out on? And I just thought of it, and I'm surprised I didn't say anything earlier. I would throw out Warner. Warner. Was Timmy Jernigan not in there?
We've got a Brian Burns nomination.
Brian Burns.
Timmy Jernigan is a good one.
I got Timmy over Brian Burns and a lot of other people, but I got Timmy Jernigan in there. I'm surprised whoever wrote that forgot about that. He played at Florida State, but he was an absolute menace. He was nasty. I would throw maybe he might be right outside the top 10. I mean, we were talking about Brian Stork. I think he was a really good tackle, obviously, but maybe here and there, Telvin Smith, I think he was a big key in that national championship run, both as on the field and as a leader. He was humongous. I mean, he kind of set those practices differently from what I've heard and interviewed guys, that he made walk-ons wake up real quick. But I'd say Telvin Smith and maybe Timmy Jernigan are two guys that are missed out on this.
And I'm going to say a name that might get shots fired. This is going to be my hot take.
Oh, no.
Nick O'Leary is not one of the top 10 players from the last decade. Nick O'Leary got made famous because his granddad is Jack Nicklaus. Let's be honest. And because he could catch the ball, because he had a nice long catch against Clemson. He's not one of the 10 best players of that decade. You said Timmy Jernigan. We've talked about Brian Burns. We've talked about Rodney Hudson. All of them were better, more influential players in the decade than Nick O'Leary. I like Nick O'Leary. Shout out, he's a West Palm Beach guy, South Florida guy. I get it. I understand it. He's not one of the top 10 players. Sorry.
Nick O'Leary gets respect because Nick O'Leary literally got hit by a bus and didn't miss a day.
This is true.
Mean, that's respect right there. But Nick O'Leary was a true option. He blocked very well. He was good catching. He was an all-around football player. And I think if he were who he was a decade earlier, we would have had a much longer and storied NFL career. What I like the most about him is most people who come from affluence we consider pansies or chumps, but he was very tough and hard nosed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't do much celebrating either. He was kind of just quiet, and if he was going to run you over, he was going to run you over, and that's how it worked.
I'm not saying he wasn't a bad tight end. I'm not saying he didn't do his job. He was great at doing his job. He wasn't one of the 10 best players from that decade. Sorry.
I'm glad LaMarcus Joyner's in there, though. We don't get to see him anywhere because he doesn't do anything on social media, and you kind of forget about him. But LaMarcus Joyner was disgusting, mean.
I'm waiting for the point where Mark admits and says, you know what, Jason, you're right. Florida State really is the DBU. I just thought about it because you have LaMarcus Joyner, and you have Derwin James, and you have Jalen Ramsey, and you have Xavier Rhodes that nobody gives enough credit to for what he's done in the NFL. Florida State really is the DBU, and that's just this past decade alone. You know what, Jason, you're right. I'm just waiting for those words to come out of that top left corner. Right?
Ronald Darby, P.J. Williams, Avion Ellett, who was a walk-on, turned into a starting defensive back.
He's with Carolina right now, right?
I believe so.
Jason, if we dive into that conversation, and if I truly take a stand that some other school is DBU, I've yet to decide that. So first and foremost, I've yet to make a decision on who DBU would be. I've not blindly taken an allegiance like you have, but I would need to back it with metrics. And I would ask you right out of the gate before I tore you to shreds in an argument, I would say, what is your criteria? Because there has to be a criteria.
I would say recently it hasn't been Florida State as much as I named the 4 names that you can think of. But I would say if you want to talk about all time, putting guys in the NFL, putting guys who have quality careers in the NFL, I would say, and once again, I think Florida State is. I'm not saying Ohio State doesn't have an argument or LSU has an argument or even Florida has an argument. I just think that Florida State has put more products into the NFL that have had quality NFL careers than any other school. And I know I mock him sometimes here. I do. But let's give a shout out to Redbeard for a $20 donation to the Super Chat from Mark Rogers. Thank you. Thank you, Redbeard.
Thank you, Redbeard.
Well, donation
over his store, Florida, a David Hill joint literally did break down the metric, like as far as production in the NFL historically. I mean, Florida's not in the conversation. But but I would say right now, if I had a kid who was a DB, I would send him to Columbus would definitely be a place that I would tell him. A kid that I know here locally in Jacksonville very well, Sean Wade, I just had his dad on my radio show last Friday. I mean, he's going to probably be the number one defensive back taker next year in this upcoming draft. I mean, and every year they've had guy after guy. So I mean, at least getting to the league. Now, what they do once they get there is a question, but getting there, it's right now. It seems like Ohio State has done a really, really good job. So I can't even hate on that. But you can't really be considered DBU when every DB that comes out doesn't even consider like you're a DB from your school to be their idol, who they want to emulate. So I mean, we can really end the discussion by just saying there aren't DBs that come out and say. Actually, I haven't seen a DB who doesn't say they want to emulate Probzon. So I mean, and you can't just say. I mean, you can go back to Bobby Butler. You can go back to one of the original 4 African American players at Florida State. And I should know this because I just interviewed him, but JT Thomas. I mean, you got. I mean, it's a lot of guys. You can just go back, but again, right now though, I can't even hate on Ohio State. I like the way LSU plays defense in general. I don't necessarily know about if one guy really stands out. Patrick Peterson, obviously, and Honey Badger were really, really good. And he would have been drafted higher if it wasn't for some off the field stuff. But I just like LSU's defense, just the totality of it has just been really remarkable in the way that they play.
Can we just take a moment? I apologize. Can we just take a moment on a serious note? Mark, can you go back a couple comments real quick, please?
What comment are you looking for? What was stated?
T.A. Burdine, he posted something. I apologize.
That?
No, keep going back. He posted another one. That one right there. Thank you very much. Guys, please contribute your money to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, so we can get T.A. Burdine some help. This is the same man who said masks were a hoax, and that's fine. Everyone has their opinion. But to say Manny is the best coach in college football, that shows that you have some serious mental things that you need to get taken care of. It's fine to ask for help. It's okay to not be okay in our current state right now, in our current pandemic state. So please donate, and we will help you, T.A. Burdine. Just ask for help. By the way, Logan, are you logged in? Because somebody wrote 2710. Could you write 30 to 24 real quick?
What is that for?
That's the Miami's lost to FIU.
Oh, yeah. I'll get that fixed real quick. Don't worry about it. We'll get it figured out. And, you know, if Florida State, and there's so many things inside the program that they can do better, but they finally put out Cam Akers' sign and got paid today. But if you want to keep on putting the DBU stuff out there and whatnot, I mean, you got 2 guys on the West Coast right now in LA that are about to pop off with so much national television and everything into a new stadium with Derwin James and Jalen Ramsey. I mean, you've got to start marketing that and stuff for recruiting. I'm sure they do probably on the inside and making graphics and whatnot, but you got to throw it out on social media too. They used to do a good job of it. But, you know, recruiting wise, throwing stuff out there like that is good for your brand and kind of keeps the attention on you, because it's been piss poor the last couple of seasons. There's been bad development on the defensive backfield for FSU the last couple of years. But in order to keep that DBU and keep that name out there and try to hang on to those ESPN lists and polls, got to keep on throwing out there your guys that are starting cornerbacks out there. There's one, or starting corners and DBs, Derwin, Jalen. Obviously, people really respect Ronald Darby. PJ Williams is going to get his last chance with the Saints. And yeah, I'm probably missing somebody. Xavier Rhodes is going to get his last chance with the Colts.
I do have a legitimate question for James. We talked about this, and Logan put it on Twitter earlier today. Eddie Goldman, playing for the Bears, announced that he was going to. I don't want to use the word sit out, because it's for reasons. It's opting out would be the best way to put it for the 2020 season. If you were in this position, if you're in the NFL right now, you know, and once again, we're not taking one side or the other. They could have a full season. They could have a condensed season. We don't know at this point. Would you play the season, or would you opt out? What are your thoughts on this as a former player?
I'd play, but I would do some things that are different than what a lot of the players are going to do, which is tough. It's already a family strain when you play major, even Division I, but definitely professional sport, because it's the time that you spend with your family is really for those months that you're in camp going into the season are very little anyway. So I would just send my family back to Florida if I were Eddie. I don't know. Well, he's from DC area, so I would send them somewhere else, and I would just make sure I take care of myself. But unless he has some issues that I don't really know about, but he set out because one of the pre-existing conditions or the things is being African American, which 70% of the league is. So that's, I mean, it's kind of hard to say $350,000 in an accrued NFL season. That's nothing to scoff at. But if I was going to make, I don't know what Eddie's contract is, but if I was on track, like, I can only use my situation, which I was a minimum guy. So I'm going to take I probably would sit out. I'm getting paid the exact same amount of money or close to the exact same amount of money to not have to do anything and work on my craft, get healthy, because you never really play healthy, probably since he was in high school. So, but, you know, a lot of those guys are making decisions for that. There are some guys who've just had kids. And, you know, that's when I missed a lot of those formative years when my daughter was going to Southern University here in a couple of weeks. When I was playing, that's when she was her youngest. So I missed those years, and I've had an opportunity to see how important they are with my two boys. So those are things that I don't fault anybody for wanting to get. But like if you're me in my situation now, I have family members who it does directly affect that. I would just make sure I separated and quarantine myself from them so that I can protect them. But when you're looking at a bunch of guys who have a hard time, they discipline themselves discipline is a word that I think we just kind of just paint a broad stroke over everything. These guys are disciplined for the most part. They're disciplined in their work ethic to be able to get to this position. If you were to get to this position, you have to have some manner of discipline. That being said, I don't trust a man with no vices. Even the most disciplined people have something that they do that that they can just kind of take the edge off. And whether it's people who like to go out for drinks, they like to go hang out at different places. That's what young people do. And these guys, there's probably 100 people associated with the franchise, from trainers, the coaches, the players, that if I can't account for what all those people are doing and all of them aren't taking the same precautions as me, and my family is still with me, I can 100% understand and respect where these guys are going. It's not necessarily that you fear COVID per se. You fear the unknown for COVID. We have no idea what COVID is going to be. Like I can already see in 10 to 20 years, if you've experienced symptoms from COVID, join this lawsuit, or if you had this. I mean, there's a lot of symptoms that are important to me right now. I'm a little older. My vitality isn't as much as Logan's is right now. But when I saw erectile dysfunction, is one of the side effects. I like my manhood working, so I don't want that to be affected. I don't want to make millions of dollars and can't get it up. I don't want to be on a ventilator. I don't want to be on a lot of these other things. And but that's really the only thing I would say about that. But I probably would play, because I also understand that you really only have, if you're good and you have a really, really storied NFL career, whether it's a Hall of Fame or just a guy who's found a way to be on the team for years, the max you're going to get is 10 years. The average is 3. So it is a young man's game. So you got to be able to continue to play.
Now that James is talking about ED, we've officially hit the overtime portion of MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football.
Can we get this thing to 100 likes? We're at like 75 right now. This would be the first time ever in our history that we'd get 100 likes. Jason, stop.
No, didn't you say you were going to do push-ups if we got to 100 likes?
If we ever get to 100 likes every show, I'll do push-ups every time live. But we've never hit 100 likes while live. But if we hit 100 likes, I'll do like 25 push-ups.
That will make the person who thinks you're hot very hot and bothered if you're able to do those.
Muscular.
Do those push-ups.
I might have like some sweat coming down, James. I might be a little bit more buffer in this polo. That's why I'm starting to wear these polos a little bit more. I'm gaining weight, you know. I'm getting close. I mean, Coach Storrs might be getting me right. He might be giving me a little thing on the side here to work off of and gain some weight, you know. I used to be like a thin man on here.
You are our Justin Timberlake, okay? We've already established that, all right?
Did you guys talk about Coach Storms in the gains that some of these guys have been making? Last week's show?
Haven't really talked. We kind of throughout the last 2 weeks kind of have, but I mean, the one today too, Tamarion Terry's 222 pounds. I mean, that's going to shut off a little bit, of course, once fall starts and whatnot and they get out there, but that's still pretty impressive. If he keeps his speed, man, that's nasty. I mean, of course, DK Metcalf is a different kind of animal and whatnot, and his muscle percentage or whatever the heck you call it is ridiculous, but that kind of weight is they're in the same kind of caliber like he was at Ole Miss. And if he still keeps the speed, I don't know what else to say. I mean, that's really ridiculous. But Coach Storms, man, the development, and I'm looking at these young cats at linebacker too that have needed to gain a little bit more weight. I mean, we've talked about it before. Dontavius Jackson has been, him and maybe Leonard Warner have been the biggest linebackers in the last couple of seasons. And I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, that's not big to me. I don't think it is. I mean, some of them look like DBs that are playing the linebacker position. Literally they are. I mean, it has been the last couple of seasons, but seeing Jaleel McRae, Steven Dix Jr., who's obviously a true freshman that looks like a baby Ernie Sims, McRae, Deloach, even Glenn. I mean, the linebacker unit, I think, is what I'm keeping an eye on for developing these guys and gaining some good muscle weight, not just weight, but good muscle weight for right now.
Even what Marv has been able to do in the transformation with his body. It's not, as a guy who is, I guess, still a strength and conditioning and professional, but it's more of a hobby now than a career now for me. The biggest takeaway that I can get for Coach Storms, and this is probably more of the Mike Norvell effect, is the fact that there's the buy-in. There's only so many ways you can do a squat. You could drop a squat and you could drop programming. To gain weight means you're eating, and it means you're taking better care of your body, and that has to be a buy-in from the player. That's why you see so many people make exponential gains when it comes from when they leave their college program and they go do their pro day training. It's because they're buying into hopefully make as much money as they want. But the good strength and conditioning coaches are better psychologists than they are actually programmers. And I believe that's really what the biggest thing with Coach Storms and staff have been able to do, especially in this pandemic. Really what's encouraging is the true freshmen and the younger guys. You brought up Steven Dix, his transformation, Brian Robinson's body. And I got a chance to see pictures of him. He did a lot of his stuff down where he's from. And you see him setting up a pull-up bar in the back of his mom's condo, and he's got bricks, and he's doing whatever he needs to do to be able to make his gains and to be able to train. So that's the real testament, is that these guys are buying in. Could it be because they saw a guy get fired and a guy not leave? Possibly. But at the end of the day, these guys are what these guys are doing and buying in. You have to be able to attribute that to the strength and conditioning coach. Because when the guys are bought in, they're the best. Even Vic, who, I think Storms is a better strength and conditioning coach than Vic. But Vic had those guys bought in, especially during the national championship run. I believe the only knock that when Vic really lost the locker room was when he got his DUI, because the strength and conditioning coach is really the muscle for the head coach. He's the one who's in charge of the discipline. He's the one who's in charge of enacting and getting those guys prepared for the demands and the rigors of what that coach wants them to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think a lot of it goes to strength and conditioning. And, we saw the last couple of seasons, I was talking to James on our podcast of just how, after a drive or two, man, Florida State's offensive linemen were completely out of shape. I mean, Chad Mavity, who am I thinking of? I'm not thinking. Is it Mavity that I'm thinking of? Who just, after a while, the drives, they just don't know. Their hands are on their waist and they're just dying. They're brutally dying. The offense is supposed to stay on the field for a good while, but the last couple of seasons, that has not been the case whatsoever. The defenses have been having to go through absolute hell for playing most of the game, but the conditioning, I think, should play a big part in how these guys are going to be able to show effort more. And obviously, you feel better whenever you got a little bit more muscle on you to hit somebody, or you go run a route on the inside. Brown Terry getting up to 222, and then Steven Dix Jr. and Marvin Wilson he came in at 330. He was already, the crazy thing is Marvin came in at 330. And I went to multiple practices, and he was faster than the other cats around him, which is crazy at that weight. He just has better athleticism. But now he's down to 305, has a chance to be at like 300. But you can definitely tell he's a little bit more cut, a little bit more lean, and he looks built. He's always had like that bigger upper body, and he's had a smaller base on him, I think. He's kind of should be him and Durden and Robert Cooper, if he's kind of gotten himself straight too body wise. It could, and Fabian Lovett now that just got allowed to play. He got his waiver good. That D line is going to give Miami a run for everything this year in the ACC for having one of the best defensive linemen group.
I feel like Mark's been out there the entire time taking notes on how we run our podcast, how everything's going. He looks impressed with that. It looks like he's just one moment of quiet reflection.
I'm running this live chat.
So
Keep track of that.
I want to end the night on a controversial note.
What's new?
Yeah, this is true. I mean,
What are these? Your hot takes? Your latest?
no, I'm not gonna. I don't have a hot take on this one. I'm gonna ask these two gentlemen, these two guys, Logan and James. So obviously the ACC is supposed to announce at some point what they're going to do, how the schedule is going to play. We already got two conferences that said they're going to do conference games. The Big 12 says everyone should do their own thing. Is no news so far. We're taping this on July 28th. Is no news good news for the 2020 season? What do you guys see? Do you think the ACC will just say, let's play all 12 games and see what happens? Do you think they're going to cut down? What do you guys see happening at this point?
I think you're going to see the 10. There's a lot of smoke about the 10+1. I actually think it might be 8+1 actually, and they're going to probably push the season back to September 26th. That's my personal take on it. I would hope they do the 10, and the reason why is because I believe I'm looking at what North Carolina just announced, where they're going to have no fans. I look at what Syracuse has already announced, having no fans. I believe that's probably we're either going to do 25% or no fans. And the money, no matter what, the money and the operational cost to run a game, the more games are just helping run teams more into a deficit. So they're going to play whatever the minimum amount of games they need to have televised play. And at least if you push it off to September 26th, you still give yourself time to let people get, if people get the COVID, let them get that, let them recover, and then go from there. You could try to have them as involuntarily voluntary themselves being at the stadium from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., which they can, between making them take all their classes, study hall, weight training, food, everything provided for them at their different facilities. But you're still going to probably have more cases than you would have in the NFL, just from the fact that you have professionals and guys who are going to eventually fall into the mode of professionalism over players. Like we've seen it with MLB with Marlins, where they have, I think it's up to like 17 guys right now, that have that 17 people, I think 14 players that have it, and that's the benefit of having 85-man rosters. 85-man scholarship rosters with about 120 walk-ons, and you're going to see teams get hit, and they're just going to have to make adjustments. Injuries happen, red shirts happen. Those things, like you have to treat COVID in the same manner. You have, obviously, make sure that they're safe as possible, but you have to treat it in the same manner that you would treat ACLs, torn labrums, MCL injuries, different things like that. You have to have your contingencies. You have to have plans for that, and it's about who's the deepest in terms of talent and who's the best in terms of their medical off-field staff. But I think there's still a chance. I think it will be, if they're to cancel it, it's going to be something that's going to be the last possible moment. We're not going to find out that it's canceled tomorrow. I don't believe. Like tomorrow, because tomorrow's supposed to be the president's conference call for both the SEC and the ACC, and I doubt that we have that.
Logan, do you think, on a side note with that, obviously we talked about the Marlins, what happened, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Baseball and football, they didn't do like the NBA, how the NBA had the bubble in Orlando. The NHL's kind of had a little bit more of a bubble. Baseball and football have not really had that bubble. Do you think seeing what happened with the Marlins after just one weekend could hurt the chances of us having as much of a football season as possible, both NFL and college?
Possibly. I think gonna have to see how well they recover and how quickly they can recover with it more than anything. From what the rumor was, they kind of screwed themselves over and they had a little good time out in the town. ruin that for themselves. You would hope maybe it's a little bit more organized, but you're controlling a way bigger team, and you're dealing with college kids. And, not everybody can stay in the same spot all the time, like a bubble can with the NBA. And everything that they're trying to do there in the NHL, whatever, where everybody's confined and they can do testing every day and stay on schedule. There's kids on the line and stuff. So there's definitely a more concern for it. The big thing for, FSU and moving forward, if the opening game doesn't start, I think today there was a report that they were even thinking about moving the week up now earlier. A lot of this is just so much talk up in the air. It's like James said, we're going to have to wait a good while longer before anything becomes official. Florida State they're obviously wouldn't get it paid as much, but going to Atlanta still, they'd get a bit of money for that. And it'd be nice to have Florida State make some money. And West Virginia is in some deep doo-doo right now. I mean, that game, if Mike Norvell is Mike Norvell and that offense is clicking, that game shouldn't really be a game after going into the second half, because their defense, and they haven't been out on the field yet working out and whatever, and their players are going to be pretty much calling plays there on the defense. So Florida State fans should really want this game to happen. That would be a game 1 win, and hasn't happened in a long time for a season opener. But, we might hear some leaks or whatever after the conference tomorrow between the ACC, SEC, and the presidents and all that. And then there's something on August 4th. I think the NCAA is finalizing whatever plan they have in place to go down. But yeah, it's a little worrisome about the Marlins thing and whatnot. But, there's been some guys right now, that had to be quarantined in Tallahassee, but now are back working out and stuff. So it's just, as long as it works smoothly and fine, and I think it's just going to be one player that is in some deep trouble health-wise. It's going to cause a lot of concern.
Yeah, I feel like a decision has to be made soon, one way or the other, whether you do 12 games, whether you do, like James and I are on the same page with that one. I think 8+1, 8 conference games plus the 1 non-conference, that's the best way to go. But I mean, tomorrow, July 29th, is 1 month until the first week of quote unquote scheduled games. So something's got to be decided now, one way or another. And the ACC, I feel like the ACC and the SEC are waiting to the last possible moment until they're forced to cancel games because they don't really want to. But at this point, something's got to happen.
All right, folks. What a show. What a show. What a show. I haven't had to talk for like 45 minutes. I let these boys roll with it, and it's a great show, and I kick back, and I, just like everybody else, I'm just entertained. But I will note a few things before I get to everybody here, and want to give you the opportunity to let everyone know where you guys are individually. Redbeard, great job as usual. Thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Wayne Tillman, thank you, sir, as well for the Super Chat contribution. Mr. G14 Classified, if I had a viewer of the night, viewer of the day, maybe we'll go to that at some point. Our guy, Mr. G14 Classified, always encouraging everybody, always encouraging the channel here. And Richard Hill, wherever you came from, man, you're doing a great job as well. We appreciate your comments. Between Mr. G14 Classified and Cheryl, they're looking for some merch, some Voice of College Football merch. So that was on the off-season to-do list, but we haven't gotten around to that.
We've been looking for this merchandise for a while as well. I mean, Logan's been asking for a shirt for months. I think James has been asking for Mark Rogers cigars.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Cigars.
We'll get the cigar line going.
I mean, damn.
I'm sure it'll be a severe downgrade from what James is used to, though.
You can get masks. We can get Mark Rogers mask made with your little logo on the side. You can get that done.
All right. Overtime's over. I think somebody missed a conversion here. James, where can we find you, man?
At Big Game James _36 on Twitter. I talk sports. I talk randomness. I talk whatever it is that I feel like talking about at the time. Catch me fifth quarter college football or go to @CFB Home on Twitter. Give that a like. We cover all the college football with the Fifth Quarter Network, FSU, and some of our bigger schools. are really good. We're getting a lot of traction out there with the Midwest and the Big 12 schools. The guys do a really, really good job with our network. My radio show, Sports Den Live. You can go on Apple Podcasts. You can go to Google Play. You can download that every night. Our radio show gets converted into a podcast without minus the commercials. We do it on Facebook Live. We do it on Periscope. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can be able to see that as well. Or go to 1010XL.com. Check out the on demand. You can be able to check out radio shows live, or you can check out the on demand function, which is with SoundCloud, to check out our stuff. And again, that show is about primarily the Southeast, covering the NFL, with a focus on the Jaguars. Unfortunately, they suck, but we tell the truth about them. We're not a homer, but we talk about Miami, Florida, and Florida State as well.
Is there anything you don't do, James? It sounds like you literally are working 24/7. I know you've got your daughter. Shout out to the Southern Jaguars. She's going to be Southern Jaguars this year. Shout out to them, but damn, man.
Yeah. Another HBCU is going to get some of my bread outside of FAMU. Basically, I just live, and I found a way to get paid for everything that I do. So these cigars, if you want to smoke the cigar that I'm smoking right now, Liga 9, go to thehumidor.com, check it out. Type in Sports Den at checkout for 20% off. I can't hook you up with shipping right now. I think they did it one day for my birthday. They gave everybody free shipping. But if you make a purchase and you screenshot that purchase and you send it to me, I will mail you a thehumidor.com t-shirt.
What hustle do you? What the hell?
They write me a big check to smoke cigar. ABC Fine Wine and Spirits writes me a really nice check to drink and smoke cigars, and I am appreciative of them. I have a lot of inventory now that I won't be throwing tailgates this year, I guess. So I have about all my money for tailgates is going to go to stock my personal liquor cabinet.
James, I'm on team Get Your Money Right. We appreciate you on that one.
You need some.
Logan, where can we find you?
Let's see.
My bad. Hold on. I gotta go, Mark. I gotta go take care of the kid. But I appreciate you guys, and I'll see y'all next week.
Appreciate it, man.
Again.
Logan, where the hell can we find you?
Right here. I mean, this is it. This is all you need to be on Tuesdays at 7:00. But you can find me. I knew you were about to say something, Jason. What are you going to say?
Where can we find you when you're not here?
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Noel Game Day, on Twitter at the Noel Game Day. We got a podcast called Hear the Spear. We are recording a big episode tonight with Nate, our recruiting insider, and Austin, our basketball guy, and Dustin, our lead writer and editor, because I think we have 50 questions we're answering tonight from Discord, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So we have a long night ahead. But if you guys like podcasts and we have guests on, definitely go subscribe to that. And then if you want to hit up our Discord, we're well over 1,200 members now, and I think there's about close to 1,500 messages sent a day in between recruiting, MLB talk, college football, movies, TV shows, gaming, Xbox, PlayStation, everything's going on in there. But also the guys give recruiting predictions. They give in a lot of insight, and I throw in my nuggets whenever I hear them. The nuggets go to Discord before Twitter and Mark Rogers, sadly. But only though if you listen to the preview, though, the offense and defense preview, there's a few nuggets here and there that I think you guys will like whenever you watch the video soon.
I feel like you just like saying the word Discord. You've been saying that a lot. Last week you said it a lot. This week, I'm like, that's your new word. Discord.
It's blowing up. You're not in it, Jason? Come on.
I'm not in it to win it with you on your Discord on Noel Game Day. I only deal with MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. As I'm Jason Parker Internet, the assistant voice of college football.
Jason, where do we find you at, Jason?
You can find me at NBC6.com. That's the picture we will have up next week on Twitter, my baby picture. From there, I was
what in the world?
That's a sexy picture right there. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Who does that? Sears somewhere here in South Florida. I'm not sure. Somewhere back in the day. But you can find me on NBC6.com. We'll, of course, have the latest once the ACC actually gets up and makes a decision at some point over the next couple of days. Plus, you can obviously find out the latest on coronavirus, the latest on a storm that supposedly is going to come hit our state this weekend. So mazel tov on that one. And more importantly, can the entire Marlins organization get coronavirus by the end of the week? That's our debate. Can the Marlins do it? And for those of you who are asking, yes, I wore the Ravens hat just to piss off Logan.
And even though I wasn't recognized for my hard work by Jason, I'm going directly from this show to go work all night till 5 o'clock in the morning. And this after producing content for the big show, for the big channel. We had Phil Steele on college football preview this morning. So that was a good get. And we had a great discussion.
What is the Korean baseball game that you're doing tonight over at ESPN?
I have no idea. I just know that I got to be there to supervise.
Okay.
You need to hush your mouth, Jason. We're 64 weeks in. You know you need to be quiet.
Why? I love the Korean baseball. The was it the Dinos? Won't the dinosaur mascot? They're phenomenal. NC Dinos. Shout out to the NC Dinos.
And Florida State fans, since you're here, big roster breakdown with Logan and myself later this week. So be looking out for that. Offense and defense, we got it covered. Logan did all the work, of course.
Huge break.
We had to give you a break, Jason. We wanted to give you a break, and that's what we did.
I appreciate it. Trust me, we spread the wealth around here. We are a family. For those of you, Logan and I love each other. Mark and I love each other. James and I, we love each other. We're all a family here, just a dysfunctional family.
Jason doesn't just love James. He has a crush on him.
That was my pandering birthday gifts coming up within a month. So that
beautifully stated by Jason.
I just want a
Quite
Mark
the
Rogers
sentiment.
shirt. That's what I want for my birthday. Size XL, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You get that, I will wear that. Constantly.
We'll get working on that. All right, everyone. I have got to go.
Go.
We've all got to go at this point, and
There's cats going.
we got the cameo right before we hit the end broadcast button from.
Yeah.
The show's gone off the rails. Stick around for overtime. See you guys next week.